this show.
Yeah.
Ready? Roll
For what?
to start.
Fratelloni's Hardware
Hey.
and Garden Stores. What
Joey
accent
Peeps.
is that?
Joey Peeps, how you doing?
What is that?
Hey.
Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores.
Where'd this guy come from?
I can't get that. I can't.
Why are you going Elmer Fudd
I
on it?
don't know.
I'm driving in my car.
Don't start there.
Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you 14.
Yeah, where do you park your car? Where'd you park your car?
Brings you show number 1,485, Feb 17, 2025. 63 degrees on this day in 2017. And it was as chilly as 20 below on the morning of this day in 1903 and 1936.
Hail the flashlight king.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Haidt in the newsroom, and of course, the Rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Souchere.
Do you know that neuroscientists have taught rats to drive?
What?
Neuroscientists have taught rats how to drive.
And what the study learned was how the rats anticipate the driving and the joy that gives them, and they get very excited. The rats get excited before they get to take the wheel. And Jordy notes that rats with cars get all the rat chicks.
I wonder, does the rat driving the car, does the Mrs. Rat next to me, hey, don't take this
Yeah,
way, go this
directions.
way,
Yeah.
watch out for that car.
You were going to drive right off the road. No, I'm
Surprised you didn't go with Rat Rod in that joke.
You know.
The Trump administration today, this was released Friday, fired at least 2,300 federal workers at the Department of the Interior, including 1,000 National Park Service employees, 800 Bureau of Land Management employees, and 400 U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service employees, or 4% of the agency's entire workforce. Most of those fired were working through a probationary period and have limited rights to appeal the decision. Okay, then you get quotes from people in opposition to Trump. These clumsy firings will damage national parks from coast to coast and push our most imperiled animals and plants close to extinction. Well, that's Taylor McKinnon, Southwest Director of the Center for Biological Diversity. Thousands of federal workers across other agencies have been affected by mass firings. Today's actions come as the Interior Department is already understaffed, and a day after 3,400 Forest Service employees were laid off. Employees at the Environmental Protection Agency are reportedly next. Do I know enough of this to find it horrifying, or what am I missing? I think John and I talked earlier today. We tried to find out, or John tried to find out, if you want to go into the Department of Interior and isolate needless positions, principally DEI, that'd be fine with me. But do you really want to pull the guys out of the forest who might be around to put out a fire? What am I missing here? What am I missing?
Is it people on the ground or people in offices?
Well, 3,400 forest employees.
How many? Sorry, how many?
3,400 Forest Service employees.
Aren't we just trimming the fat?
I don't know. That's why I'm saying, do I know enough to find this horrifying? 1,000 National Park Service employees.
Well, anybody that's going to be fired is going to be vocal and say this is an outrage and be
But
upset.
what I'm saying is an outrage is let's not let the national parks and forests fall into some sort of disrepair. Don't you want to put the family in the family truckster this summer and go visit a national park and be able to be waited on and helped? And
Yes, but I think there's probably still going to be ample staff, don't you?
that's what I don't know.
I don't know. Why are you asking me?
Well, let's
That
move
funny
on.
accent.
Trump administration, this is today. Trump administration cuts reach FDA employees in food safety, medical devices, and tobacco products. All right. The Trump administration's effort to slash the size of the federal workforce has reached the FDA as recently hired employees who review the safety of food ingredients, medical devices, and other products were fired. Well, I don't want to buy hamburger and bet like I'm in Nicaragua. I want to be able to go to the grocery store and presume, like we always have, that meat's been okayed.
Isn't it safe to assume, though, that there's so many safeguards in place that probably won't happen?
Well, again, I'll ask the question, do I know enough to be horrified?
I don't think we do we?
Probationary employees across the FDA received notices Saturday evening that their jobs were being eliminated. All right. The total number of positions eliminated were not clear Sunday, but the firings appear to focus on employees in the agency's centers for food, medical devices, and tobacco products, which includes oversight of electronic cigarettes. It was not clear whether FDA employees who reviewed drugs were exempted. On Friday, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced plans to fire 5,200 probationary employees across its agencies, which include the National Institutes of Health, FDA, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Okay, could it be that according to the Trump administration, there are so many employees already on board that we don't need this additional 5,200 who are on probationary status, who presumably would have also come on board?
Right.
Is that a way to look at it?
I think so.
I'm not getting any help here, except for
sounds
you.
like it.
Yeah, and I'm the expert. That's
Yeah.
troubling.
I mean, really, I'm serious. Who's checking the ground beef? They must have left in position people to test the ground beef that goes to the store.
Yeah,
All right?
Freddie's checking.
He's not that stupid, is he?
Well, there's inspectors right at the what we call meat markets, right at the butcher
And
shop.
they have
There's
to
you-
all. Yeah, sorry, Ken.
They always have to be there while the process is happening. So unless that rule or law is changed, you could assume that they're still there.
Kenny's right, because I know a guy that works for a place in the Shakopee area, and he's not a federal employee. He's employed by the grocer.
Okay. Do I know enough about this to be horrified?
Well, it sounds, I mean, do you want input or do you want to just do this? It sounds to me like you're jumping to the conclusion that you are horrified. What you're saying to me is kind of surprising, obviously. And what can we do other than wait and find out, I guess?
I said, do I know enough to be
Well, it
horrified?
doesn't seem like you do.
I don't think I do either. But
Right.
I know. Here, how about this? Are the airlines going to become the Patrick Royce Let's Take a Chance Airlines?
I think we should have at least one airline like that.
Willing to risk
Just
it, Air.
one. Just one.
Just one.
The Trump administration has begun firing several hundred Federal Aviation Administration employees, upending staff on a busy air travel weekend. Probationary workers were targeted for late night emails on Friday, notifying them they had been fired, said David Spiro, president of the Professional Aviation Society Specialists Union. It's shameful to toss aside dedicated public servants who have chosen to work on behalf of their fellow Americans, Spiro said. These employees were devoted to their jobs, and their safety is a critical mission of the FAA. This is a draconian action that will increase workload. The impacted workers include system specialists, safety inspectors, maintenance mechanics, administrative staff, and more. The employees were fired without cause, nor based on performance or conduct. They were fired from an executive order. They were fired by email from an executive order on Microsoft email address, not a government email address. The firings hit the FAA when it faces a shortfall in controllers. Federal officials have been raising concerns about an overtaxed and understaffed air traffic control system for years, especially after a series of close calls between planes. Among the reasons they have cited for staffing shortages are non-competitive pay, long shifts, intensive training, and mandatory retirements. Just days before the collision, President Trump had already fired all the members of the Aviation Security Advisory Committee, a panel mandated by Congress. Just days before the collision, meaning the jet and the helicopter in Washington, D.C. Just days before the collision, Trump had already fired all the members of the Aviation Security Advisory Committee, a panel mandated by Congress, after the 1988 Pan Am 103 bombing over Lockerbie, Scotland. That committee is charged with examining safety issues at airlines and airports. I would say that they've been doing what they were supposed to do because we don't have very frequent airline problems.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know enough about this to be horrified either. But I've made it my goal to stay out of airports anyway because I just hate what air travel has become.
Having been fired a number of times, and this might sound cruel, I would prefer an email. That's the face-to-face, getting fired face-to-face. That's brutal.
Well,
Just send me an email.
You're a professional, are you?
I'm a pro at getting fired, Matthew. Send me a note.
well, they don't have time to do this in person. There's so many people.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
The thing I don't get is the probationary period. That was across the board, every story I read.
Yeah,
So
me too.
that means new employee, right?
Sounds
Well,
like it.
The probationary period for the government jobs that I was reading about was 1 to 2 years. So they could have already
Oh,
been
wow.
on the job. So if they're good at their job, just to say, see ya. I guess maybe would that come down to length of service? I don't know.
There's got to be enough BS in the government for me to keep cheering on Doge. There's got to be. But I guess I am comfortable in excluding things that everyone relies on. No one relies on 33 office holders in a DEI program. Everyone relies on food safety, airline safety, and healthy national parks and forests. That affects everybody. So, again, the only stupid, ridiculous analogy I can come up with is that they're throwing out too many children with the bathwater. They're going through this quickly. They're very intent. They're very intent on doing this. Musk is very intent on somehow streamlining this massive government, but they're going through it with a sickle, and they're getting everybody. I think we should have plenty of people in air traffic control towers.
That are well rested.
And I think they should be paid well. I don't think they should have to work 15-hour shifts. I'm very comfortable with the idea that we should have food inspectors up the yin-yang.
Yep.
I want them everywhere. And I treasure the country's. I've never had a relationship with a tree,
Yeah.
but I treasure the nation's ground cover. Its forests, its parks, the waterfalls. What? Come on. All I can do is to keep my eyes out every day to see where this is leading. They obviously haven't gotten to a point where you shouldn't fly. And they haven't gotten to a point where you shouldn't eat.
Well, what if we get to the point where we put Rook in charge?
That's when you don't fly.
Yes. Am I in
I'd
charge
put
of the
him-
plane or meat?
I'd put him in the meat market.
Sure.
The
I can do
food.
that. Oh, yeah.
Well, I
would be
trust
good.
you.
Well,
You're the food guy.
let's go. Let's go here. Give me a job.
I know what you're saying.
I don't want this probationary period either. I want money now. Let's go.
Well, I read all these today. There began to be one after the other, and me detected a pattern.
It sounds like you want to be upset to me.
Well, okay.
Okay, but let me.
If it's air travel, food, and forests, yes, I want to be upset.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I said this to you before the show started. you have long said, and we went down this path a little bit last week, you have long said that we got to pretty much start over. What if this is what that entails? We got to pretty much start over here.
Seems like it. Joe, you're not familiar with the movie Office Space, are you? No, I'm bringing up
Yeah.
a solid point.
I know exactly what you're going to say. Yeah.
I don't think I am.
The corporation, what was the name of the corporation? Doesn't matter. They needed to trim some fat, so they brought in the two Bobs. The two Bobs sat in a conference room and interviewed everybody on the staff, and that's how they determined who would get cut.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what you would prefer, that sort of system, right?
I'm a people person.
As opposed to, like you said, the sickle just sweeping down.
The Texas-based software company,
Initech. Yeah, Initech. You would prefer the two Bobs show up and talk to everybody face to face and decide who's going to go and who's going to stay.
Kenny, Joe's kind of the Milton, isn't he? Someone stole his stapler and then he burned the whole place down.
He is kind of like the Milton. But am I speaking out of turn with that analogy, Joe?
Not as far as I'm concerned. That's fine. But how about this one?
Rookie's got the flair.
Yeah.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture has slashed millions in contracts that were active under the Biden administration, including for a Brazilian forest and gender consultant and a Central American gender assessment consultant. Hear, hear.
Okay.
Our lives are not affected by having those people. Those are made up BS. Get rid of them. That's great. That's fantastic. John, what did you find when you attempted to narrow down just how many DEI positions, for example, are in the Department of Interior? It's hard to determine, isn't it?
It is. I couldn't find anything. I did find that the Interior Department has 70,000 people total, but there was never any breakdown that would tell me what everybody did. They still have a page talking about their Office of Civil Rights, which I'm assuming would be listed as DEI by the new administration. I have no idea. They have a page on that. And I know the first week they let go 2,300 people, but there was no indication if those people, what they were involved in with the Interior Department, what they did. And then you had the stuff from this past weekend also. And FAA, no, I could find nothing, period, about number DEI, and they have no DEI information on their website anymore. That's all been
If we just look at the government locally and realize how many people have jobs for which there is no explanation or means of measuring them for achievement, it stands to reason that the federal government is got thousands of employees who probably aren't needed. So I will continue to say I don't know enough yet to be horrified about FAA cuts, FDA cuts, and Department of Interior cuts. There maybe those were all redundant positions, but there's not a doubt in my mind that I don't need to pay for a Brazilian forest and gender consultant.
How many is a Brazilian?
A lot.
What about the assistant to the assistant?
I don't need an assistant to the assistant.
Yeah, me neither.
Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins announced the cuts Friday, saying that the department has terminated 78 contracts totaling more than $132 million, which is, a dime in your pocket given our budget, but still, we don't need this. Rollins said 1,000 contracts are also currently under review for termination, potential determination. The findings are a result of a review by the Elon Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency. Among the 132 million in terminated contracts this is the Department of Agriculture again. And don't forget, the Department of Agriculture was the initial point of cutting the money that got sent to the Minnesota Department of Education, which then got distributed to the food fraudsters. So we got rid of 2.77 million in media contacts, including Politico subscriptions. Okay, I don't need to pay for Politico subscriptions. $374,000 for a diversity, equity, and inclusion onboarding specialist.
Come on.
I don't need that. Go for it. Get rid of this stuff. $239,000 for a Brazilian forest and gender consultant. $29,000 for a Central American gender assessment consultant. $121,000 for a woman and forest carbon initiative mentorship program. $254,000 for diversity dialogue workshops. $91,000 for training, education, and access to professional and economic opportunities for women and increasing their participation in climate change adaptation activities in African, Middle Eastern, Latin American, and Caribbean regions. No, axe it all.
Okay.
Get rid of all of
Gone.
it. B as in, it's all BS.
Yep.
The USDA said it has canceled 948 employee trainings, 758 of which solely focused on DEI. There's where you go. Leave the guy in the traffic control tower. Or the
Chopping block.
gal.
Chopping block is what I say.
Other canceled trainings were on topics like environmental justice and gender ideology. No, get rid of it all. All of it. All of it. That's fine with me. Rollins said the USDA is additionally working on a plan to optimize its workforce by eliminating unnecessary positions. Yes. Bringing the workforce back to the office. Yes. And relocating employees into the nation's heartland closer to rural communities. Yes. Okay, that's fine. That's great. I wish I knew more about FDA, FAA, and the forests, because maybe that's all they're doing there, too, is finding these gender ideology training sessions and firing the people associated with them. They'll have to go find a real job someplace.
It stinks, doesn't it?
With stinks.
Having to get one of those real jobs.
Yeah, Kenny thinks he's been fired. I've been fired more often than Kenny. Maybe not as often as Kenny. I don't know. Let's take a time out, please.
The Earth is not your mother. The Joe Souchere Show.
Are we smarter than a third grader? Let's find out. Jason writes, hey, Kenny, I have a 1989 Yamaha 250 Bravo. By the way, that's a fan-cooled one-lunger, a snowmobile. I have that for my boys to ride around. It ran like $1 million when I bought it a couple of years ago, but after a couple of years of poor snow and neglect, it would run, but it was hard to start and didn't want to idle very well. Cleaning the carb was on my list, but I hadn't got to it. Yesterday, I saw my 9-year-old go blasting by the house with it. When he came in, I asked him how he was able to get it started. He said last time that he had it running, he poured in a couple gulps of Seafoam, just like Dad showed him on other cylinders. He says he's now able to start it himself with 2 pulls, and she idles like the day we bought it. Thanks to him and Seafoam, I've got one more thing crossed off my list. How many lessons did we learn here, fellas? How many?
1.
Just one? Well, first of all, Dad learned the kid is self-sufficient. There's one. Dad also learned that problems have a way of solving themselves when you use Seafoam. There's 2. The kid learned if you want something done, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah, you can't rely on other people.
Or with the help of Seafoam. It's an absolute legend with the adults and children around the world. A wonderful product in a world of bad gas. It's our friend Seafoam.
It could have come to this in the UK, that you could be arrested for saying that you like fossil fuels.
Really?
It's a story from the National Post. This is Charlie Angus, a member of the House of Commons. Today I'm proud to rise and introduce a bill that would make illegal false advertising by the oil and gas industry, Angus announced in the House of Commons. He added that the oil and gas sector was trafficking disinformation and killing people. I'm sure Angus drove there. Angus also twice framed a bill as the dawn of the industry's big tobacco moment, an apparent reference to Canada's... This is in Canada, by the way. I'm sorry, not the UK. An apparent reference to Canada's blanket federal ban on tobacco advertising. As a private member's bill introduced by the member of a party with only 25 seats in the House of Commons, Bill C-372 has almost a zero chance of passing, but as written, the act would technically apply to any Canadian who is found to speak well of the oil industry.
What does it say about Charlie's Angus?
It is prohibited for a person to promote a fossil fuel related. In other words, Kenny, you'd be arrested for doing Seafoam commercials. Presumably, they wouldn't have Seafoam commercials if this bill passed.
Now, is this on city property or private property?
Anywhere.
We're talking advertising here, right?
Yeah, but that's being understood to also mean if I texted you that, boy, I put some corn-free premium in my car today and she ran like a top, that would constitute.
He liked gasoline.
Yep.
He liked gasoline.
Yep.
Yeah.
Walls would create a snitch line.
Violate this as a regular citizen, and the act prescribes summary conviction and a fine up to $500,000.
Yikes.
Violate it as an oil company, and the punishment could be as strict as 2 years in jail and a fine of $1 million.
Woo!
If this is what Canada is, I don't want the U.S. to absorb Canada, which I don't think it will, especially after the American hockey team showed them what they were up to.
3 seconds in.
He ripped our anthem, huh?
Boom!
Oh, there you have it. I mean, that's in Canada. This is, yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Charlie did that last year, Joe, right? You aware of that?
Let me get the date on this, John.
February 2024, and it had no chance of passing.
I've done the old Angus.
Yeah, in the fall of 24, Toronto, the city council passed a motion to restrict fossil fuel advertising, but only on city property.
Okay, well, that's pretty. That just this past fall.
Well, that was probably before Charlie ran for military, right, Rook?
Yes, Colonel. He was a colonel in the Royal Canadian Army.
Who? Charlie Angus?
Yeah.
Charlie is
Colonel Angus?
Colonel Angus. I don't really like Colonel Angus.
Charlie's still busy, by the way. He has a new one now. He was blasting Trump over his tariff threats. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
annihilated.
Colonel. Morning, Colonel. Yes, sir.
I got a way here. I got a guy who has figured out a way that Walls could benefit from fraud.
Oh.
How
He
Walls
doesn't-
can
he doesn't-
benefit from fraud.
He doesn't want his name used.
Oh, come on, people.
Well, I don't blame him. Friday's show had continued the discussion on what does the governor get from fraud. Well, first of all, we never said the governor gets anything. What I said was, I don't think the population of Minnesota can be blamed for wondering. The fraud is so constant and the capital's leaking so much money, and Walls continues to hold no one accountable. I think it's reasonable to wonder if he also isn't benefiting. That's what we said. And this fellow goes on to say, it was speculated that he might receive money, and you correctly surmise that he doesn't get money in the form of direct payments. What he and the rest of the DFL get is power. Teach a man to fish and he can feed himself. Hook him up to a lucrative grant from the state and he will A, vote for you forever, B, take about 10% for administration costs, and C, return 10% of the 10% in the form of a campaign donation. You can't donate money from the grant, but if you have set yourself up with a nice job with a title that pays $100,000 a year, you better be writing out some checks and returning favor. This is a pattern that happens over and over. When I was first elected, I'm not going to say who this fellow is. When I was first elected in 2020, pre-George Floyd, there was already proposals for violence interrupters. These block captains would just happen to be on hand to testify in favor of the bills that they would directly benefit from.
So
Now, speaking of the violence interrupters, it's become almost impossible to understand, and the reason for that is there's not a good player in the bunch. There's no one to fall back on and say, help us understand this.
Got it.
Everyone, Minneapolis is so poorly led that everyone to some degree might be complicit in this mess of trying to pay violence interrupters. The Star Tribune even weighed in. And the lead of the story is Minneapolis plans to foster public safety beyond policing are a mess. Just a few years ago, the effort to create a new model to deter violence seemed to unite elected officials, neighborhoods, and civil rights activists. Today, the vision is mired in political finger-pointing and accusations of failed oversight of taxpayer dollars. The city council members say they have lost faith in the neighborhood safety department. The neighborhood safety department was headed by a woman who said, "I've lost faith in the system and I resign." She's now accused of taking money. They're all crooked. What do we got here? It's just a bleep show. Following a year of questions over the viability of the city's unnamed safety initiatives, Luana Nelson-Brown, the former director of neighborhood safety, resigned in January amid increasing city council scrutiny over the department's ability to coordinate services. Nelson-Brown also faced allegations that under her leadership, the neighborhood safety department advocated contracts for those with personal connections to city staff. Neighborhood safety had did we ever cite the number of their budget?
No, I don't think
a
we did.
$23 million budget in 2024, with 85% of it spent on violence prevention contractors.
You're kidding.
No, it's a great deal. In an interview following her resignation, Nelson-Brown denied financial wrongdoing, saying she was the one actually vilified and pushed out for demanding more financial oversight from the Minneapolis violence prevention groups. She said city leadership prevented her from speaking publicly about millions of dollars paid to contractors without a shred of documentation, and that when she tried to raise accountability to a higher standard than other departments were accustomed to, she found herself with no allies in the city enterprise. You want me to put that in Garage Logic terms?
Please, dumb her down for me.
Now, because I have no idea. Nelson-Brown might be a thief for all I know. We were celebrating her as a hero last week, the kind of person we need in public service who was saying, look, I'm not going to do this anymore. These characters are turning in their bills on a piece of paper with no accountability. Excuse me. I'm done. And we're thinking, she's great. Mm-hmm. Now they're saying, she ain't great.
We needed to wait that 72 hours, didn't we?
It sounds to me like other city, it sounds to me like in this cesspool of mismanagement and incompetence that other agencies are saying, wait a minute, she's trying to uphold standards here that the rest of us don't have to. She's a bad guy. She wants to make it too difficult for us to do business the way we were accustomed to, which is crooked, however alleged.
Isn't that the dirty game being played?
I don't know why I have a frog in my throat.
Need
What?
some agua?
Isn't that the dirty game being played right now? I mean, that's how I'm reading this, aren't you guys?
Well, and my point is, where do you turn for clarification? They're all. You can't go to the mayor. He's a Mysterian.
Can't go to the city council.
There's one thing you're missing here, though, and it's almost like Hollywood wrote this.
Yep.
Because there's a love interest involved too.
Oh, I missed the love interest.
Come on.
Oh yeah.
Is it with
you got to
Nelson
scroll
Brown?
scroll down to whistleblower allegations. Evidently, Nelson Brown had a relationship with somebody called Leon Dixon, who was the CEO of a group that was trying to do violence prevention. It gets really complicated. This is like a Jack Nicholson movie.
Oh, yeah, whistleblower allegations. Here we go.
Yeah.
Perfect health.
Yep.
Jump
Quit
to the
looking at
second
me,
paragraph.
you who talks through your nose.
Jump to the second paragraph, Joe.
One complaint in the letter referenced a contract with a business called La Nota Group for process analysis. Utilizing the human dignity model of violence prevention, La Nota had been incorporated less than a month before Nelson Brown issued the call for applications. Its CEO, Leon Dixon, had been listed on Nelson Brown's Facebook page as being in a relationship with her in 2021. You know what I proposed that we do?
They later broke up. You have to note that they did later break up.
Yeah. What I'm prepared to do is forget about this story.
Like, do you remember when this was first brought to life? Right after about a year or so after the George Floyd thing?
Sure.
And we all sat down and thought, well, this is the best idea we've ever heard in our entire lives. And it turned out just as we predicted.
There's two reasons to let this go completely. One, no one's paying attention to us in terms of fixing it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
And B, who would fix it?
Right.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Who would you?
But isn't ignoring the problem completely allowing them to win?
We've done yeoman service in trying to inform Minneapolis taxpayers, many of whom are euphorians and don't listen to this show, but their friends do. We've done yeoman service in pointing out that you've got some real. It's St. Paul too. Let's go this far. Okay. Closer you get to the country's tallest buildings. We've got a real problem with the political class. They are really not in the right place. And so I see no reason to pursue this. We can't fix it, and they don't have anybody to fix it. So what will happen is that $23 million is going to get spent with no evidence whatsoever that it accomplished anything.
But
more waste.
We can't do anything about it, but we can't look away. I mean, we've got the popcorn made. The lawn chairs are ready. We're sitting here watching this dysfunctional family reunion.
No, we can
implode.
turn away. We can turn away. You're exactly. It's a dysfunctional family gathering at Thanksgiving,
and we're at the next picnic shelter over, just watching this
like
mayhem.
Someone grab me another beer. This is getting good.
This is amazing.
Hey, hold on. The ex-husband just showed up.
I don't dare go to the bathroom. I'm worried I'll miss something.
You know what the next wrinkle in this will be really fun is to where C. Nelson Brown ends up.
Yeah.
She quit.
Yeah.
You mean like a cushy?
Now here's how dysfunctional this is. She quit for one of two reasons. She either quit because she's on the up and up and she couldn't take it anymore. This is BS. Or she quit because she's about 5 minutes away from getting nailed. It's one of the two.
Sure.
There is no other way to look at it.
But if she was on the take, why would she have quit her job?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If she was profiting from this, why would she walk away?
Because the consequences for her being found out might be more consequential than whatever she was getting from being on the take.
Okay.
Right, because if it was a gotcha, it would be worse.
Well, plus she can go get another gig and pull if she's involved. We don't know that. Hell, last week we were saying we need more public servants like LaToya Brown or whatever the hell her name is. It turns out she either left because she couldn't take it, because she told a good story last week. Why, these people come in here with their bills written on a napkin. They have no verification. They have no accounting, no accountability. And then we learned that Robin Wansley was very disappointed in Nelson Brown because Wansley was really upset that her people weren't getting their money. And there was a threat of having Hennepin County disperse the money. That seems to be off the table now. The latest I got is... the city of Minneapolis is ready to move forward with 5 separate organizations as part of the violence prevention program.
Wow.
And the selected groups were publicly identified Friday. Yeah, this is from Fox 9. This is the Star Tribune. The selected groups were publicly identified Friday after a newly enhanced bidding process following the settlement of a lawsuit challenging the city on its lax practices of handing out contracts and failures to verify the...
I want to stick on the side that she's trustworthy.
Yeah, because the allegations coming out are awfully timely, don't you think?
Okay, here's the contracts. Urban Youth Conservation, $207,000. W. Berry Consulting, $207,000. Emerge, all capital letters. Community Development, $173,000. Sabathany Community Center, $138,000. The Man Up Club, $73,000.
They meet in the pool hall. See, now, if we were sitting at that picnic shelter and doing some side action here, I would put $20 down on Luana Nelson Brown. I think she's going to come out the victor here. That's where my $20 goes.
Listen to this. Oh, my God. I have a 24-hour phone. I've had it for the last 8 years, getting together with guys that might need support. Seafoam Brown said of his outreach work to reduce violence in Minneapolis. Brown's Urban Youth Conservation Group is in line for more than $207,000 in funding following a more scrutinized bidding process this time. Urban Youth Conservation previously received more than $500,000 when the bidding process was not as serious as it is now. The minute the bidding process got some formality to it, his dough is cut in half.
Yep.
He got more than $500,000 in taxpayer funding, despite questions raised in a lawsuit about how the city evaluated a prior proposal of his. A lot of people say those dollars are being spent the wrong way, or these dollars should not be allocated to these people. But if they weren't, go back to when it was Murderapolis, isn't it still? And just think about Murderapolis and look how it was then to how it is now, Brown said. Okay.
How's this work on your taxes? You work for one of these groups. You don't have to punch a clock. You're making money. How do you report that to Linda?
Well, you're a nonprofit.
You don't.
But you're an employee of a nonprofit.
True. You know what? I don't know. I have to talk to Linda later today. I'll ask her. Seriously, I will.
Yeah, I'm making $60 a year working for this nonprofit. I get paid in cash.
You're not. You got no problems. You're not. I say we drop this story.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to keep watching.
I'm going to always watch with at least one eye.
Living up here, it's fun to watch you guys circle the drain. I really, really enjoy it. It's a fun pastime.
We're like a Netflix series to you.
Yep.
It's a pot of $23 million, and you've got about 5 different factions fighting for it.
And the voters keep going to the poll electing these people.
Boy, are you voters stupid.
I'm going to vote for a new Democrat this time.
I love you guys, Minneapolis. I love you.
Boy, I hope this is the week. Well, no. I hope this is the week you don't need Precision Door. And they'll come out. They'll fix whatever you got right off the bat. But
she going to be cold.
It's really a tough week to have your garage door go on the fritz. So put Precision Door's number in your contacts. They're the garage door guy of Garage Logic. 612-263-6985 for Precision Doors, serving western Wisconsin, the entire metro. Their phones could be ringing off the hook this week. Don't delay. If you need them, get a hold of them. They're the best. Also, when the weather calms down, this might be a bad week for a garage door consultation.
5 below here, Joe.
Yeah, but
5
when the weather settles down and you're thinking about a new door, they have models for every budget. They send out an on-site designer. That consultation is free. And if you get a new door now, they're throwing in the new opener, which is a value of more than $760. Get to Precision Door at 612-263-6985 or Precision Door MN, one word, precisiondoormn.com.
A man who spends hours in hardware stores, sifting through the nuts and bolts of life. Joe Souchere.
Speaking of getting a grip on all of your financials, See what I did there, Joe?
I do.
I'd like tied in a topic with my live read. North American Banking Company is here to serve you, your family, and in some cases, maybe you have a small business to take care of. North American Banking Company is here for you because their tagline is simple. It's banking done differently. And I've made the switch, and I hope you consider them as well. 6 Twin Cities locations to serve you. It's Maple Grove, Shoreview, Woodbury, Hastings, 50th and France, and of course, Roseville. They offer all of the services as the other big national banks. It doesn't matter whether you're looking to buy a home, finance a new home renovation project, or get that new car that you've been thinking about. My friends at North American Banking Company are going to be able to help you out. They offer the same online and mobile banking options as the other big national banks, but you are going to get the unparalleled service of a community bank. Locally owned and operated, and here's why that's important. That means loan decisions are made right here in the Twin Cities, not sent out of state. So find them online today. It's nabankco.com to learn more. Once again, it's banking done differently. North American Banking Company, member FDIC, is an equal housing lender.
Here's John Haidt.
Thank you, Joe. Kenny, off-air conversation. I found it, and I couldn't stop giggling. How's it going, Eisenhower? That's what he walks up behind him and says, how's it going, Eisenhower?
We're referencing, what was it, Stripes?
John Candy in the movie Stripes, waiting to board the train to go to camp. Yeah.
How's it going, Eisenhower?
He gets off and he says, is this the mess hall? I hope this is the mess hall. Hey, how's it going, Eisenhower?
And he's unkempt and sweaty, and he's got a cigarette going. Oh, my God.
May I ask a question then? Are we allowed to mention John Candy movies and just not Rookie, or are we all going to get fired?
You all should never mention that.
Okay, gotcha.
Now I feel bad.
That's all right. Let's
How's
go
it
here.
going,
Let's
Eisenhower?
go here, Eisenhower.
Eisenhower, come on, how's it going? Let's start here. One quick sports. Oh, by the way, all this is brought to you by North American Banking Company. One sports note: there's been a lot of confusion about this, and something caught my eye in the weekend newspaper that hopefully this will clear it up a bit. Aside from the streaming options we already know about and have told you about for the Minnesota Twins,
Oh, boy.
Twins baseball will be available on all the major cable and satellite systems. So if you have cable and satellite, it'll be there, but it might be a little bit different. Here's why. It won't be on the FanDuel network, obviously, like before. And they haven't released details yet. They plan to in the next week or two, but it will likely involve upgrading to some sort of a sports tier if you don't already have a sports tier. So you'd have to upgrade to a sports tier within your existing cable or satellite company.
Do I have a sports tier?
What?
Do I have the sports tier?
I'm sure you do.
All right.
You got everything.
Yeah.
My God, sorry, Twins, read the room. Seriously.
That has been apparently what all the teams who have gone this route have done the last couple of years, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Rockies. Major League Baseball negotiates the carrier contracts, and then they go on whatever. So, if you don't have, say, the tier with ESPN or whatever, you'd add that tier, or it just gets added to that tier.
Boy,
whichever.
baseball's really stupid.
So, there you go.
Well, it's baseball's fault in this case, right, John? Not the Twins.
Yes. Yeah, the Twin. It's out of the Twins' hands, it sounds like to me, as far as cable and satellite goes.
And it also kind of sounds like that's the tier that we all get anyway. I mean, I get all those ESPNs and all the other sports channels.
I think you'll be covered.
So I think I'll be covered.
They will announce it in the next week or two, they said, how all of it will work. So we'll see then. Hopefully that clears it up. In news
Yeah, that's
now,
good news on a Monday. Thank you.
Yeah, and you're going to have 6 people watching your World Series again. That's great.
in news, you sound bitter, Chris.
It's just so dumb.
One person was injured after catching on fire inside a St. Paul bus shelter Saturday afternoon. It happened just before 3 in the afternoon. Metro Transit Police and the St. Paul Fire Department responded to report of someone on fire at the southeast corner of Snelling and University Avenues. Preliminary information suggests a person was near a small fire that had been started inside the bus shelter, and that person caught on fire. Metro Transit Police say the person was brought to the hospital with what believed to be non-life-threatening injuries. Officials say they are still investigating the incident. In Austin, Minnesota, a man has died after a shooting on Saturday. Press release yesterday from the Austin Police Department said the shooting happened around 1:36 in the afternoon. Police found an adult male gunshot victim when they got to the scene. Life-saving measures were performed, but the victim did not survive and was pronounced dead at the scene. Officers learned another adult male had been injured during the shooting, was transported to the hospital in a private vehicle. The ADP contacted the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension to come and help at the crime scene. As of this morning, police say no one's been arrested. They do say it's an active and ongoing investigation. The original press release, though, had said they didn't think anyone else was in danger. So a little bit of confusion as to what actually happened there. From the Star-Tribune, a snowmobile rider died after crashing into an ice fishing house on Two Inlets Lake in northeastern Becker County, marking one of 2 snowmobile fatalities over the weekend. 39-year-old Benjamin Hellerman of Sauk Center was driving behind another snowmobiler when he crashed into the unoccupied structure around 9:30 in the evening Saturday, according to the Becker County Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office said the second snowmobiler noticed the other man was no longer behind him. He went back and discovered the victim had hit a fish house. Another deadly snowmobile crash happened shortly before 9 o'clock Friday night, about 10 miles south of Walker. The Cass County Sheriff's Office said in a news release a 50-year-old from Corpus Christi, Texas, hit a snowbank along a roadway that shared with a section of snowmobile trail on 60th Street Northwest in Turtle Lake Township. Both crashes remain under investigation. Alcohol is a suspected factor in Friday's crash, and the name of the deceased has not yet been released by Cass County. Why don't we take a quick break here and see what Mr. Reavers can tell us?
You know what? It's a big week here in Garage Logic. You know why, Joe?
Why? Why?
Because Friday is the North American Banking Company Minnesota Golf Show, and tickets are on sale.
I personally will hand out the divot repair tool.
Oh, really?
Yep, it's got Garage Logic written on it, and I can't wait to give it to the people.
This year's show runs this Friday, February 21st through Sunday, February 23rd at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Compliments of TwinCitiesGolf.com. Each ticket purchase includes 10 free greens fee passes if you purchase online. It's a value of over $350. Your electronic ticket will include a web link to redeem the free greens fee passes, and you can find more information and tickets at the mngolfshow.com website. This Friday, Garage Logic will be live at the Minnesota Golf Show starting right around noon, and we will be joined by former Viking and NFL Hall of Famer John Randall, who is serving as the ambassador. Big golf fan.
I think he's a player.
He is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so find out more information online at mngolfshow.com, and we'll see you this Friday at the golf show. Yes, sir.
It's going to warm up by then, too.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be a pleasant day.
I don't think we'll be able to golf, though.
No.
Okay.
It's the end of the world as we know it, and he feels fine.
All right.
Joe Souchere.
Boy, those bumps are getting shorter.
I mean,
Dylan should give some money back.
Who's in a bigger hurry, Joe or the bumps?
I'm not in a hurry.
To be over with.
In national and international stories, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and other U.S. officials will meet their Russian counterparts in Saudi Arabia today to begin talking about a path toward ending the war in Ukraine, according to reports. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said his country had not yet been invited to take part. The meeting follows a call between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin last week, is the latest in the Trump administration's effort to draw down U.S. involvement in the conflict. U.S. officials in recent days have called on Europe to assume more control over its security situation, warned against Ukraine's pending NATO membership, and more. In the latest federal shakeup, the Trump administration has ordered the heads of several agencies across the government, you talked about this already, Joe, to start firing employees who are still within their probationary period or within their first 1 or 2 years on the job. During that period, which is different for each agency, workers have some protections in place, but their weak standing puts them in a position that's easier to terminate. The directive, issued late last week, could impact more than 200,000 federal employees. Meanwhile, the NAACP is urging Black Americans to refrain from shopping at retailers that have stepped back from diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Nation's oldest civil rights organization released its Black Consumer Advisory, a project intended to help educate Black Americans, they say, on who's pushing progress and who's stuck in the past. The advisory lists companies that have recommitted to DEI in recent weeks, like Delta Airlines, Costco, Apple, and Ben & Jerry's, while also highlighting major corporations that they say have dismantled their programs.
Thank you to Full Fatty One on social media for alerting the GL podcast account of this very, very serious song that must be played in response to John's news story. Joe, there was a protest against Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very reminiscent of There's a Hole in the Sky Where the Tree Once Stood.
Oh.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back.
Right,
Never turning back.
What are we moving forward to?
Didn't spend a lot of time writing lyrics, did they?
Trump is not a king.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. That was wonderful.
Is that the disco version, or is that the long LP extended version?
The extended play version.
Airplay? Which one is that? And could we put together a show with all these vocalists? I'd like to hear "Hole in the Sky."
That wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, and who's the headliner there?
It would be, well, what was that? What was it? We found out, wasn't she an actual singer? The Hole in the Sky lady?
Where a
I
tree
think
once
she
stood.
ran a crochet class or something.
Crochet. One layoff comes from the Oops department to us. U.S. government now trying to rehire nuclear safety employees.
I think that would be wise to bring them back.
It had fired on Thursday after concerns grew that their dismissal could jeopardize national security. The National Nuclear Security Administration workers were among hundreds of employees in the Energy Department who received their termination letters. The department is responsible for designing, building, and overseeing the U.S. nuclear weapons stockpile.
Did you guys watch Chernobyl? Did anybody watch that series?
No.
Boy, I recommend it.
When was it put out?
I don't know. Say it into your microphone. It's recent.
Chernobyl.
When was it put out?
I don't know when.
Okay, I said it in the microphone.
Yeah.
Chernobyl.
Anything happening, Kenny?
Yep.
Nothing. You guys are still on my screen.
Yeah.
Luigi Mangione, the suspect in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, issued his first public statement Friday, thanking supporters for sending him letters while he's being held at the correctional facility in Brooklyn, New York. Mangione said, "I'm overwhelmed by and grateful for everyone who has written me to share their stories and express their support." The 26-year-old Mangione released his statement on a website that his legal team created to provide updates on his case and, in their words, dispel misinformation. The statement is his first public remark since he was arrested on December 9th.
He had really slipped out of the news until this little bit here.
I have it, Joe. It happened in 1986.
What did?
Chernobyl.
I know that.
Oh.
Jeez.
Yeah, we know how it ends. It's kind of like watching Titanic.
At least, shouldn't giggle going into this story, at least 10 people have died this weekend after a powerful storm battered much of the southeast in the United States, bringing strong winds, heavy rains, and devastating flooding. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear confirmed 9 people were killed there after floodwaters started sweeping across the state. Most of those people staying in cars and trying to drive through high water. Emergency responders also conducted more than 1,000 rescues, according to Kentucky's governor. Captain America, Brave New World, #1 at the weekend box office and is projected to finish as one of the highest-grossing President's Day weekend openers ever. According to ComScore estimates, the fourth Captain America film grossed about $88.5 million in domestic sales Friday through Sunday. It's expected to easily surpass $100 million through the remainder of the holiday weekend to become at least a top 4 highest-grossing President's Day weekend opener ever. Some other entertainment notes. The Goonies. I'm not sure we need this. We're going to make a Goonies sequel.
I thought we knew that already.
Did we?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard it.
Okay. Because it's an awful idea. It's a terrible idea.
First of all, it was great, so why mess around? This is 40 years after the fact. First Goonies came out back in 1985. Josh Brolin, Sean Astin, Corey Feldman, Ke Huy Quan, and Martha Plimpton all starred in the original movie about a group of kids who find an ancient map to hidden treasure. Directed by Richard Donner and produced by Spielberg, The Goonies did quite well at the box office. It cost $19 million to make. It made $125 million worldwide. It's gone on to become a cult classic and was selected to be preserved in the National Registry by the Library of Congress in 2017.
Yeah, every young kid watches that movie.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I've
great.
never seen it. Joe, have you seen it?
Nope.
It's good. You'd like it. It's, you know what it is?
I don't
it's
think
fun.
I would. You know what? I don't want to have fun.
You know what the little guy and I watched last night? Ferris Bueller's Day
Well,
Off.
that's a must.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Martha Plimpton, John, what was the name of that series she was in recently,
Yeah,
where she was an absolute genius in it.
Yeah, I
It
can't
was.
remember. I know what you're talking
It took
about.
place during COVID.
Yep.
I'll look it up. You keep
It was on
going.
Fox, yeah. One other movie note. If you grew up a fan of the paranormal or AM radio in the 90s, you know the name of Art Bell, radio host of Coast to Coast AM, featured on our old station, AM 1500, talked into the night with his guests discussing ghosts and aliens, time travel, Bigfoot. Now, Paul Giamatti is set to play Bell in a new biopic from Ready or Not.
He kind of
and
looks like him.
Yeah, a little bit. Per Deadline, the untitled project with Giamatti in the lead is now in the works, with studios like Amazon and Warner Brothers vying for the pitch. I did not know this, but apparently a lot of Bell's classic coast-to-coast AM shows can be heard both on YouTube and on their own website that you pay $6.95 a month for, and his Midnight in the Desert programs can also be found on YouTube as well.
Is he alive?
No, he's dead.
I think he passed.
Yeah.
I never heard his show.
Really?
I wish I would have. I guess I
It
could
was
do
fun.
it now. Yeah.
It was driving to, through North Dakota at the
Right.
middle of the night kind
Right.
of show. It's fun radio.
I used to do the news in the evening when I first worked at KSTP, and I would work through Tommy's show, Tommy Mischke, and then Art Bell would be on. So on my way home, I would listen pretty much every night.
And he'd have somebody call and say he was abducted by an alien or something.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Usually those calls came from west of the Rockies.
Exactly.
Hi, this is
Anybody
Art Bell.
check out, speaking of Tommy, anybody check out the first episode of
I
Mischke's
have
new
not
show?
yet, but I intend to.
I heard very good reports
I
from
did too.
several different people.
Yeah.
John, did you hear the show about Mel's Hole in Seattle, where there's this bottomless pit somewhere in the Seattle, Washington
I
area,
did not.
where you
no.
throw something in it and it never hits the bottom? Oh, it's
all the way to
fantastic.
China?
It's fantastic. I looked it up, John, the name of the show, and it's on Amazon. It's called Sprung,
Sprung.
and it's also starring a favorite actor, Garrett Dillahunt.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that was great. I watched that whole thing. It was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Get back to the show about the hole in the ground. What is that? I would
Mel's
like to see
Hole.
that.
Mel's Hole. It was a radio caller called what's his name show, and told him all about this hole where people have been for years and years throwing junk into it and it never fills up. So they tried to figure out how deep it was, and it turned out that it was absolutely bottomless. There's no bottom to this hole.
Well,
It
is
just
that on
keeps
TV?
going. No, it's not on TV.
Oh, it was a radio episode.
It was
Yeah.
Art,
Yeah.
Art Bell
okay.
shows.
Okay.
The ones that used to freak me out, since we're talking about art, do you remember the priest, Father Malachi somebody or the other, who did exorcisms?
Yeah.
It was creepy to
Yeah.
listen to the
Yeah.
talk about
It's a
exorcisms.
fun show.
That's
It
a
was.
tough division of the priesthood.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey,
Yeah.
what do you do?
they got their own barracks.
Well, do you
and-
declare that? Do you have to? Is that an elective?
I think it's almost like CIA recruitment.
Okay.
You have to be.
You gotta be
you gotta
selected.
Be
You have
special.
to be a certain-
You got to have certain gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
is
yeah,
a,
the risk you run though is to be a little too eager,
Yeah.
like Francis Sawyer in Stripes. When do we get the guns? You know, you don't want to be too eager to
A lot of Stripes references today,
Yeah.
Francis.
do a diddy diddy dum diddy dum.
How's it going, Eisenhower? This is a rather sad story. It needs a lot more detail than was supplied by KLAS in Las Vegas, which is where I found it. A man died after fire crews found him stuck in a palm tree in the East Las Vegas Valley.
No.
It happened last Thursday, 3 in the afternoon, when Las Vegas Fire and Rescue located the man in the 2000 block of East Bonanza Road near Eastern Avenue. A caller reported to Las Vegas Fire and Rescue they saw an unconscious man 25 feet in the air and stuck in a palm tree. Firefighters got there. They got him.
stuck in a palm tree.
They got him down from the tree. He was unresponsive and passed away at the scene, according to Las Vegas Fire and
How do you
Rescue.
get stuck in? There's
So
no
it wasn't a
branches.
fire situation. He
No,
was just
and-
in the tree like a cat.
Was he impaled in some manner?
No, he was
there
just he was
something-
lying in it basically. And I found several stories on it, but none of them had any reference to why he was there or how he got there.
You know what the fam is probably going to say at the funeral? I bet they won't say he died doing what he loved.
Yeah. That's not
I
the
think
worst
cliche.
death I've heard of. I saw in the Daily Mail a guy died upside down in a cave. He got stuck, and they couldn't get
I
him
can't
out.
even. I can't even think.
See,
about
now
that.
both of those guys, I think they died from FAFO. That's what it was, a hold my beer situation.
Yeah, you're right. You're
and
right.
it didn't go well.
FAFO.
Was that guy
Screw around
spelunking?
and find out.
Oh,
Was that guy spelunking like through the tunnels?
yeah, he was a caver, and he
I
got.
can't do that.
They could.
Matt, when you spelunk, do you do it by yourself, or is there people with you?
I'm a little.
You lock the doors and
I'm a
draw
little
the
shy. I'm a little sheepish, so I just oil up. But I do it on my own. I don't want to.
John,
trying
thank
to
you.
spelunk in the air.
Yes.
I need a minute.
Come
John,
back
thank
later.
you.
You are welcome, Joe.
Not stop him. He'll just make a move. Joe Souchere.
Hey, how about this? Stay tuned all month long as we announce a new GLer of the Week each and every Friday throughout the month of February. All you got to do is you got to be an annual Town Council subscriber, and you're automatically entered every single month. And if selected, you're going to get a shout out on the show and that amazing $50 gift box from our friends at Masters Maples and mastersmaples.com. Don't wait. Join the Town Council or upgrade your membership now, and you, yes, you, could be the GLer of the Week. Just go to garagelogic.com for all the details.
I have a novel idea that might save America.
All right.
It seems to me that the political class gets in trouble for spending too much money that turns out to be fraudulent, for example.
Okay.
Well, it just occurred to me, you've got Representative Kristen Robbins, a Republican from Maplewood, right here in Minnesota, is preparing a bill she hopes to introduce this week, which will make it easier for state regulators to halt daycare payments to daycare providers who've been warned repeatedly about serious violations which could possibly jeopardize the health and safety of children. This is following the great J. Cole's revelation that we've got rampant child care fraud, that people with unsafe child care centers are getting money, people with virtually non-existent child care centers are getting money. Well, here's an idea. This bill should have existed on the very day that child care came into existence. In other words, you know, 30 years ago or whatever it was, somebody proposed a bill in the state house to fund child care centers.
Yeah.
Why wasn't it automatically made a provision at the time that, and here are the 10 rules you must follow to get the money?
Okay.
What are they doing? They get piles of money. They get all excited about sending their virtue signals, and they send out the money, and then they got to spend 10, 20 years cleaning it up. Why not have a bill for every proposal to spend money? Yes, here's the money. Here are the 10 provisions you must follow.
Sounds too.
Huh?
It sounds
Huh?
too smart. Too full of common sense.
Why should this Kristen Robbins even hope she gets her bill heard? It should be heard. It should have been heard 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You following me?
I'm following you, and that's just how government works. They're too big.
Right now, the regulators have some authority to stop payments, but it is not required that they stop payments. So this is Kristen talking. So they're not exercising it, as we have seen in some of the CCAP cases you found, said Robbins. The statute says they may stop payment under certain conditions. It doesn't say must. Well, there's your problem.
Should say must.
From the get-go, it's been wrong. The food fraud was wrong from the get-go. We're now taking submissions. Rules have been a little loosened up because of COVID, but here's what we're doing. We're now taking submissions. If you believe you can do the Lord's work here by feeding children during this pandemic when they might not have access to their schools or their normal feeding areas, you submit to us your application to become a food provider. And here are the 10 things we expect. And among the 10 things, of course, would be, and we will be inspecting you on a weekly basis. We want this form filled out. Why isn't that done?
You make too much sense right now. Why isn't it being done?
Can I answer it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, because earlier in the show, the one person that tried to get one of the people that's attempting to get in the way had no chance.
But it should have been the same with violence interrupter money.
I agree with you completely.
Ladies and gentlemen of Minneapolis, we have a pool of money that we're willing to spend on a new program that we're going to call violence interruption. And what we anticipate is that, a pastor or a recreation center head might get a group together, and he's confident that they can walk a certain beat in the street and possibly interrupt violence, if not prevent it altogether. And here are the 10 provisions we anticipate, including applications A, B, and C must be filled out, and then prior to payment, applications D, E, and F have to be filled out, and we will be on site once a week to see what you're doing. Why isn't that done?
Again, because there's too many people that are running with their hand out that don't give a damn about the rules.
Well, why
The
isn't
problem is the political class is too full of the same people with their hand out.
Right.
Well, look at your St. Paul mayor. How many people does he have in his court? And nobody says, hey, we're wasting a lot of money here. You could get by with 10 people and not 20. It's the same thing.
I don't care if he has 23 people. If they did something that could be demonstrated for the good, that doesn't happen. No, let's stay on track. If any time the state or a city or a township or a village council is going to dispense money, they better have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. And here's what you must do in order to receive the money, and here's what you must do in order to continue receiving it. And also have one of the 10 provisions would be if no notice is made of any violence interruption, your part of this program will be automatically canceled. You won't get paid anymore.
Cut and dry.
What? I've just solved your problem.
So the next politician you have on, that's what you've got to say.
If it was a standalone bill, I don't see any reason to vote against it.
Neither do I. I think Kristen Robbins, will probably prevail. I would hope so. And then, listen for objection to her program. There's where the problem would be. Somebody in there that says, "Hell no, I can't slip the dough to my buddy Fred here." If you come up,
You mean
with
like
this.
what's going on in Washington?
Yeah. What did he just tell you?
Do I have time to run downstairs to get a Diet Coke?
There's one right around the corner.
Right here.
In the lobby.
Yes, I know. But
Okay.
It's okay if he walks out. Yeah, we're okay with that.
You can use
Only
some
because they
exercise.
come to us all the way from Lake Las Vegas, Nevada. Oh, the new wrinkle today, by the way, from the Traveling Lymans. It's on this day.
Joe, today is February 17th.
Make sure I got the new wrinkle here.
Hey, we
got
missed one story here before you
Happy
take us out
Valentine's
for
Day.
the day.
Yes.
I wanted to invite you. I've already vacuumed up the dead flies, the ladybugs, and the box elder bugs in one of the guest bedrooms, rolled out a ratty old sleeping bag, and hoping you can come up and spend the weekend with me this weekend, because when we go outside, we will be able to see in a row Venus, Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune and Uranus, all in a row.
Well, that's later.
I'll be able to do that right here.
Now, there's light pollution.
I'll get away from it
You
without
can't
coming
see
up to
light
your
pollution. You come on up here. We got rid of all the bugs.
You got a good lock on that door?
It doesn't close
Okay.
all the
Okay,
way.
got it, got
It's kind of a skew.
Asking for a friend.
It was on this day.
February 17th.
I think he's rejecting my.
I can't make it.
I
I've
think
got
that
a
RSVP.
I've got a yoga
He's
class.
scheduling some light dental work.
Okay, Eisenhower.
It was on this day.
February 17th.
In 1815, the Treaty of Ghent went into effect, formally ending the War of 1812. The treaty dictated that the British must vacate posts located on U.S. soil, including those in present-day Minnesota. On this day,
217.
That was a treaty of what?
Ghent.
Oh, Ghent. Okay, I
On
thought you
this
said
day,
something else.
February 17th.
In 1881, Norman County was established. Nicollet, Nobles, Norman are your N counties. Although the name was believed to honor influential settler colonist Norman W. Kitson, well, there's also a Kitson County. It is now understood that Norwegian immigrants selected the name in remembrance of their homeland. On this day,
On Feb 17,
boy, I remember this one. On this day in 1921, I think this has been on this day in history before.
probably a year ago.
Yeah. Sister Camilla Hangy,
Would have been a
principal.
Sunday.
Huh?
Would have been a Sunday last year.
Whatever.
Anyway, go ahead.
Principal of Central School in St. Wait a minute.
Hey, now.
Sister, well, John threw me off there.
Sorry.
Sister Carmela Hangy, principal of Cathedral School in St. Paul and a member of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet. Is that how you say it? Carondelet. Founded the School Safety Patrol in Minnesota, which became an international model for parochial and public institutions. At first, a school police program for boys who served as guards, helping fellow elementary students cross busy streets, Sister Carmela's enterprise inspired the organization of numerous programs that now include girl guards and bus patrols. I am a former proud
Crossing guard?
Were you one of those slow workers dragging your heel, slow
I had
walkers?
the leather belt with the
Dragging
bag.
your
They call
heels.
them school patrol?
Yeah.
You know, pick up the pace, kid.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
Here.
I got
Come on.
places to go.
Fact base,
I'm
Feb
writing
17 of 2024 was a Saturday, so I bet you're remembering from 2 years
Saturday.
ago. Because that would have been a Friday.
Leap year.
On this day
Feb 17.
in 1872, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a pollution suit against Reserve Mining Company, which operated a taconite plant on Lake Superior and dumped tailings contaminated with asbestos-like fibers into the lake. Lasting 5 years, the proceedings were the nation's longest and most expensive environmental legal battle to that date. And the Judge Miles Lord was involved in that.
I remember that.
And finally, on this day
On Feb 17.
in 1998, I'm not sure this would have made my day in history. The turtle racing capital of the world got a shout out on the game show Jeopardy when host Alex Trebek read this clue. Longville, Minnesota is the capital for racing these reptiles. The slowest compete for the Grand Slowpoke title. So we're going to note
What is a turtle?
that on this day in history, some game show host mentioned Longville, Minnesota.
Big deal, Joe.
That
We are
is
so
actually-
desperate here.
No, you're wrong. It's bigger than the state fair. People come from every state in the union to Longville, Minnesota
He
to
said
see this.
bigger than the state fair. You really
I've-
I like turtles.
I've been there numerous times. You can't find a place to park. You have to bus into town.
I'll take Horax for
It's like
400.
it's like Woodstock.
do they get more than 1 million people?
There's hippies passed out. There's urinating in the street.
Oh, my
There's
God.
bad acid. Grandma's tripping on shrooms. It's a big deal.
I think Kenny might be lying a little bit here.
I've been there numerous
Where's
times.
Longville?
I just looked it up.
Home
every,
of Levi LaValle.
Right, where is it?
It's up there.
Go ahead, John.
every Wednesday,
Yep.
1 p.m. to 3:30,
Yep.
June 14th through August 16th. So
Yep.
they do it every Wednesday for 3
Yep.
months almost.
Reserve your chair. It's unbelievable how many people it draws. It is east and south of Walker, about 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Got it.
Sure.
East of Hackensack.
Yeah,
Right up there by St. Cloud.
it's up there.
If you're going to race your turtle, by the way, it'll cost you $5, just so you know.
To enter the turtle, huh? And you can
Yeah.
just show up with a turtle
Like-
and enter.
Yeah, and you get a turtle race button and a numbered sticker.
Also,
Oh, boy.
a lot of people don't know about this,
A
but
lot of people.
there's a top secret cockfighting ring in town, too.
That's
where-
illegal.
You got to have the secret handshake.
Well, you got to know a guy. And
You know, despite your lobbying, this still doesn't make my day in history.
You got for that. You got good snappers up there.
a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
snappers.
Yeah.
Okay.
On behalf of the rest
Oh, I
of
got
GL.
one more thing.
You
One more
folks in
thing.
Longville.
Do you guys have a clock? Or?
I apologize to you folks in Longville.
I'm not writing today.
The traveling linemen have included on this day in Minnesota sports disappointment history.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It was on this day
Feb 17.
Roger Staubach squired Norm Green around Dallas on this day in 1993.
Ooh, I'll never look at Roger Staubach the
Me
same.
neither.
Yeah.
In fact,
weenie.
Norm visited Dallas on Feb 16, and the next day, Roger Staubach squired Norm Green around town.
Wow.
And there went the North Stars.
Yeah.
And there went North Star Confidential.
I lost my gig.
Implosion.
Yeah. Thank you.
Please do us a favor, if you haven't done so already, hit subscribe on the Garage Logic YouTube channel. That's right, Garage Logic's got a YouTube channel, and you should be subscribing to it for daily content, including watching the show. Yeah, every noon at, what day? Every day at noon, that's what I meant to say. You can watch the Garage Logic channel on YouTube and watch us do the show live. You can also see full segments, video shorts, behind the scenes footage. You can follow us on all of our social media channels too, by the way. Just search for Garage Logic on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and sign up for the Daily Logician. It's an email. It comes right to your inbox each and every single day, and it does include a note weekly from the mayor himself called Saturdays with Such.